got our headliner installed. If you want to bring the camera, you can. Okay, we got our headliner shell installed. Now what we got to do is we got to install our bulkhead that goes around the back windows. Now that's a little bit tricky because it requires a lot of trim work. And what you want to start out with is trimming out the holes for your glass. Before you install your your bulkhead, before you install your bulkhead, the best place to put speakers in the Street Beast Vicky is right up in the corners, okay, 6x9 triaxial, coaxial speakers. And if you want to add other speakers, do not put them in the doors. That's the wrong place. They're going to collect a lot of moisture and get ruined. You want to install your 6-inch round speakers on the sidewall, so go ahead and wire all that up. As you see, I got my wires running out for my speakers. So we got to cut a hole for our speaker wires in there, and we got to cut out the openings for our windows. So if you come over here, we look at our bulkhead. This is how you'll get it when you unpack your car, right here. And what I do is I take a magic marker, okay, and I go ahead and outline. That way I can see a nice dark line there instead of a shadow. Just like that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut those out. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and drill a hole right next to that line. Okay? And then I want to drill this hole here. Now I'm going to get a hole right here. Now, if you remember me just telling you about speakers, this is where our speakers are going to go. So I'm going to cut a hole out, and it's not going to be a big hole, just a big enough hole to put the wires through. Right in that area there. Now, once you get these cut out, which that's what I'm going to do now, okay, you're still going to have to come back and trim your back window out and possibly your sides. You're going to have to trim some of that meat off of it because it's going to be too wide. And you'll have to probably trim a little section of this out to match up with your door jambs. And maybe you might have to trim the height. If you have to trim the height of it off because it's too tall, make sure that you trim the bottom. This is the top, this is the bottom. Make sure you trim the bottom off, not the top. Because if you notice, you don't have that much here to trim off. Okay? Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
So, let me get that cut out and we'll see where we're going to go. Always wear your safety protection. So we get our holes all cut out, and they're just roughed out right now. They don't have to be perfect because we're going to put some molding around them to seal any air that might come through between the glass and our headliner shell. The next thing we got to do is we got to fit this in there, test fit it in there, and see what happens. So before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the headliner, just to be on the safe side. I'm going to measure from the headliner sheet, okay, down to the where this will rest on the back tray shelf, and I'm just going to double check because if it's too big, I'm wasting my time already. Okay, it says 19, 18, 18 and 3/4, 18 and a half, somewhere in between there. And I'm already seeing that that's going to be too tall by almost a ½ inch. So let me go ahead and measure the sides now. Okay. The sides really don't matter because they're going to hang over the edge, see? And if you notice, it's already cut up. So, what I'll do is I'll cut that out. I'm going to measure it off, I'll cut it out, and it looks like it's just going to come straight across. Because if you notice, it's cut at an angle, so it should come straight across. And I think that'll save us a little time of taking it in and out. What do you think?
I think so.
Okay, let me get that cut out, and then we'll test fit it in there. All right, now we got all our car insulated, as you can see. Insulated very tight. That's going to be an airtight car. I don't know if you can tell by the sound in here, but it's real solid instead of having echo sound already. And as we were putting our headliner in, we had a little problem, and this only happens very, very rarely. But it just so happened to happen with me, and I'm kind of glad it did, so I could show you people out there, show you folks out there that this does happen every now and then. Now, something was wrong with their mold at the factory, or somebody imperfected the setup here. If you remember, this was one whole piece. Well, it was actually 3 to 4 inches too long. If you look right here where I cut it, okay, and it didn't fit. Okay, it was way too small. I mean, too long. So what I had to do is cut it in half. Okay, and now I have to fit each window separately, and then what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and pop rivet that together, because it's going to have all custom ultra leather full wrap interior, so we really don't care if there's a gap right there, but I got to overlap that and get that to fit in here like it's supposed to. Usually when your bulkhead fits right, and this has only happened to me maybe 3 times, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Usually what happens is when you cut these out, the back window, you usually have to trim more off, because when you slide it in there, it's going to stick out too far. And if you notice, this one's cut too short on this edge right here. Okay, usually it's sticking out, and you got to cut it to fit it in. So we got us a big gap there. What we'll do is we'll have the interior guy, if you can see, the interior guy will put a trim piece right around here like this, okay, before he covers everything with ultra leather. And he's going to have to do it on this too. Look how big the gap is there, Minnie.
Yeah, I see that.
That's a pretty big gap. So, let me get all this fit in there. You see that it's insulated? And I put the insulation on. If you look right here in this hole, you can see the insulation goes all the way down. Alright. We just got done installing the headliner and the bulkhead. Now, this bulkhead is going to be covered, okay, ultra leather. It's going to be full wrap leather cover interior. And when you put your headliner in, your bulkhead in, you might run into the problem that I just ran into, where you have to split it in 3 sections. That's probably the 2nd or 3rd time I've ever had to do that. It goes in as a solid piece. What I do, because there's nowhere down here to mount anything, so what I do is I make little L brackets out of sheet metal, and then I screw them together. So this is Pete. I hope all my videos have been helping you out along the way. And just one more word of advice, this really doesn't have to look really pretty in here, because it's going to be covered with interior anyway. So don't be too peculiar at how this looks, okay? As long as it's secure and super, super tight, where you don't have no vibrations and no loose ends on it. So check out all my other videos. Check me out at southwestrodandcustom.com, or you can call me at 972-420-1293. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you on the next one.